So I started going down this path as I reread the Bible as an adult, and I started challenging the church, saying, what you call sin, I don't call sin. So I was like, all right, mom and dad, let's have this conversation. And that led me to learn about Kathy Boldock and Ed Oxford, and they happened to be doing a conference the same day my parents came to town. Everyone's in LA, and I'm like, well, I'm a filmmaker, let's just film it. That's where I learned about the 1946 mistranslation. And for me, it just kind of clicked. I'm like, wow, this is not my feelings or my emotions. This isn't my interpretation. This isn't an opinion. This is a tangible mistake that we can draw from the archives at Yale University, and we can actually engage in a larger conversation around this.
So before we start this episode, we want to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have been having yarning circles on these lands for thousands of years.
Yeah, and the land that we're recording these episodes on is the land of the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And so we just want to pay our respects to their elders past and present.
And acknowledge that there will be people, all of our listeners that will be listening on various lands across the country.
Yeah, it always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Go willingly. You can do. Welcome to another episode of Queerfully Made, the podcast where we talk about the intersection of faith, sexuality, and gender. My name is Ben. I am an out and proud gay man in Melbourne.
And my name's Aaron, an ex-pastor and gay man, also from Melbourne. And today on the podcast, we have an extra special guest with us, our very, very first live cross all the way around the world to London. We have Sharon Roggio, who is the director and producer of 1946, the Mistranslation That Shifted a Culture, the documentary movie, which we're both fangirling right now.
Absolutely fangirling. It is such a great documentary and has such an important message, but it's done so beautifully. Anyway, we're going to get into all of that.
Welcome.
Welcome, Rocky. So good to have you here.
Thank you. I am proud to be your first virtual guest, but I'm also very sad not to be in Melbourne, Australia. Did I say that right?
You
I
did.
I know.
Yes.
Nailed it.
I've
been to Melbourne before, and we'll have to do this in person one day.
I would love that.
Love that.
I think we need to do a tour of the 1946 movie around the country and have you there to like a panel and ask questions.
Yep.
We'll Queerfully Made. We'll make it happen
for you. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
It is in the next grant proposal. I promise you
Yes.
that. Let's make it happen.
Awesome. I don't know how many times I emailed Rocky saying, when will I be able to watch the movie in Australia? I was like, please. She's like, it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
It is available now, though.
It is. Yes. I've been watching it for the last 2 years.
Well, let's talk about this project of yours that's been 10 years of research. We've talked about, 4 years of filming. There's been 4 years of the world tour right around the world, thousands of pages of translation history. There's been, it's been shown in screenings in front of congregations, scholars, pastors, all sorts of people. Mm. Tell us, what has this impact had on the church and the way that we look at the Bible now?
I think this research is one of many different projects that are actually working toward being more authentic in the way that we read and engage scripture, especially as Christians, which I'm really encouraged about.
Yes.
And before I even started this project, I literally, like Ed in the movie, Googled gay Christian because I'm like, gay Christian, you know what I mean? And so I was so far removed from church and so far removed from these issues that I didn't even realize there's a whole world out there of people who've already been speaking up about this, writing books about this. And then when I found, and I stumbled on Kathy and Ed and the research that they were doing, they just asked a simple question. Who made the decision to put the word homosexual in the Bible and why? Both lay people. One was as a mother of straight kids that were homeschooled, has no reason to be in this work at all.
No skin in the game.
No skin in the game, and just had a friend and said, there's something off about this. Let me look into this. And now this has been her life work.
Yeah.
And Ed, much like ourselves who are gay Christians, people who grew up in the church and identify as being LGBTQIA and knowing that those realities don't mix, felt forced to do a lot of work. And so not even just in the LGBTQIA space within, I would say, challenging how we view scripture and how we approach scripture. There are many other groups in womanist theology that I've learned, and just other ways to read the Bible that are, I think, giving the church more breadth.
Mm.
Now, I think there's also more pushback, which we can get
Sure.
into,
Yeah.
like as we see with Turning Point USA in the United States, and I know they're working to be international, and those ideas saying that they are the only right kind of Christian. So there's been two sides coming out of it, not just from our film, but from people being more vocal around these issues. So I'm just happy to be part of this conversation. And as you said, yes, it's been 10 years. This is now my life's work.
Yes.
And 4 years from conception to completion, though, I'll say, to get the movie made from my first idea to our our release at Doc MIC in
Amazing.
2022,
Amazing.
which is really hard to do for a documentary.
Yes.
If anybody's ever made a movie like this, but yeah, I can't believe it. It's been 10 years now, and as you said, we've been all over the world. And next week, Kathy and Ed will be going to Asia to present the film. And hopefully soon we'll plan a tour in Melbourne
Please.
and around Australia.
Australia-wide.
I'd love to take the question a step further and maybe ask you, how has the process shifted the way you see the church? Because
Sure.
I'm sure you've been in and out of multiple spaces that have been varying in their reception.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent question, because prior to my engagement with doing this work, I had a very negative a picture of the church, which most people do because of some of the behaviors we see coming from certain groups in the church, and the way the church actually has behaved throughout history. There's not a lot of good reputation, but I now am staying in this work, and I see amongst Christians around the world that we know that faith is a part of our reality, and that's just a fact. And so whether you're a Christian or not, this impacts the world. And so we're working to connect with, and there's so many amazing Christians out there who are doing the work of Jesus, that are doing social justice driven work, that are inclusive of people on the margins, that are asking these questions and standing up to authoritative perspectives that actually cause harm in our reality. And that is so encouraging to see, again, all over the world. We were contacted by a church in Singapore, which is why now in our third tour back to Asia, we've been all over Hong Kong, Taiwan. Now we're going to go to Seoul. We've been to Singapore. We've been to Bangkok, because the only affirming church in the country reached out to us, and we've developed a relationship. We now have the movie available in 10 different languages via subtitles. So it's language accessible and things like that. And, who would have thought? And then not just about Asia, I mean, all over Europe and then Australia. We've been with a church in Melbourne. We talked about Pastor Becky and the Melbourne Inclusive Church.
Yeah.
All over Canada, and so, and we're working now this year to get to Africa, later Brazil, and the list goes on. So, yeah, anyway.
Tell us.
That's that. We can talk about that forever.
Yes. Oh, yes. And so, but tell her, you mentioned it being your life's work. So tell us, where did that start? Like, you're gone from it challenging your own beliefs and bringing up questions for you, to then this need for you, to share it with the world and be like you spoke about, I want to get this out in front of the world, to the world, as quickly as possible. Like, what drove that in you? What made this a passion project, or what, like you said, your life's work? How did that happen?
Sure. So being personally invested in the direct response to this mistranslation, grew up in the church. My dad is a pastor. I'm a lesbian woman. Those things don't mix. So I've been dealing with this my entire life.
Right.
This common thread, like my story, I always say, is unique to me, but this is not a unique story. If you're a queer kid that grew up in the church, and there are many different levels to that. And so my parents and I have gone through where I would go to mild conversion therapy. They made me go to something called Loved One Out, which is a focus on the family,
Right.
Derivative, and another organization, Exodus, I think is part of that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had these conversion conferences. And so years later, when I started going back to church, as you saw in the film, and I was dating a woman who told me she was Christian and she wanted to go to church. And I was like, well, I guess we're going to church. You know, I mean, that happened. And so through that, I just started asking questions. And that led me to learn about Kathy Boldock and Ed Oxford. And they happened to be doing a conference the same day my parents came to town. And my parents were coming to town and everyone's in LA. And I'm like, well, I'm a filmmaker. Let's just film it, you know? And my goal was to work to try to find common ground with my non-affirming parents. And the way to really speak with them is through the Bible.
Right.
And so I started going down this path as I reread the Bible as an adult. And I started challenging the church, saying, what you call sin, I don't call sin. So I was like, all right, mom and dad, let's have this conversation. So we went to this conference where Kathy Boldock talked about penetration, procreation, and patriarchy for the next 6 hours.
The three P's.
The 3 P's.
Just missing the
If you've
fourth
ever
P
been to
that I
Kathy
love.
Boldock, what was that?
Oh, I would.
We won't go back there.
No, you know.
Yes.
So I'm like this with my parents. And that's where I learned about the 1946 mistranslation. And for me, it just kind of clicked. I'm like, wow, this is not my feelings or my emotions. This isn't my interpretation. This isn't an opinion. This is a tangible mistake that we can draw from the archives at Yale University. And we can actually engage in a larger conversation around this.
Yeah.
So because of my experience as a filmmaker, and then I have already started filming and said, I'm going to make a documentary about affirming theology. And then Kathy Boldock and Ed Oxford landed my lap with this amazing research that they had already done.
Yeah.
And they filmed that segment at Yale University on their iPhone
Yes.
the right way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's incredible. And then David's story, he's alive. So if you haven't seen the movie, you have to see the movie.
Oh,
so
you
I'm
have
in
to
this
see
conference and I'm like, I have to make this movie.
Yes.
And I'll end with this. I felt it would have been irresponsible of me as a gay Christian, as a filmmaker, with all of this information, not to make this movie.
Yes.
And then Netflix didn't pick it up, and no one in Hollywood wants to touch social justice films. So I'm the only one out there promoting it.
Come on.
And if it's not me, it sits dead in the water. And so it is now my life's work. So please rent the movie and see the movie.
Yes.
Yes. And it's like for Australian audience, to rent it for one person, it's like $6.99. If you go straight to the
coffee.
website, we'll talk about that at the end of the episode, I'm sure. But I love that scene in the movie where you are at that presentation. Your dad gets up and asks a question, and because we meet your dad earlier in the movie, and then we see this scene, and I was expecting him not to be as respectful, but he was so respectful in the way he asked the question. He said, you have done a beautiful presentation here today, Kathy. And it was really honoring. Tell us a little bit about that relationship with you and your dad and his navigation around the scriptures in this topic.
Yeah, my dad, he's so cute. And that's one of the reasons why it really works and the only reason, another reason why we're able to maintain a relationship. One quick note for a LGBTQ person out there who may be having a difficult time with a loved one around this issue. If your loved one is causing you harm in a physical, mental, emotional way, besides something of a disagreement where they're having a hard time understanding too, if they're not purposely trying to hurt you and they're trying to navigate it themselves, maybe spend the time in the space. But if they're constantly calling you names and, it's okay to say, I need some space. But we don't have that relationship, and I'm very fortunate. And so we are able to have these dialogues, as difficult as they are. And, he is authentic. And so that's another reason why it just worked. And so once that scene was done, we had signs all over the church that kind of were like, if you're here, you're being filmed and you'll be on camera. So I could have technically used it, but I would have never just put my dad in the film without him like really being a part. And we were looking for an example of how this mistranslation plays out in our real lives. I was not expecting it to be me and my dad. I did not want to be in this movie.
Wow.
Okay.
Totally. We had interviewed, if you look in the credits, about a dozen other storylines of where it could have gone.
Yeah.
And so we have a ton of back footage that we never made it in the movie. But once he showed up, it really made it personal. It really helped drive the story. It gave us a little bit more control of the story too, because now I'm able to um, narrate in places where it's missing. I was able to fill in some of those pieces, so we were able to really piece it together more smoothly. And again, this was a very difficult project, as you can imagine, making a documentary about the Bible and just a documentary at all and homosexuality. And so my dad and I had a conversation about it and had to both make a decision to revisit those painful moments to be able to then have a voice. So I spoke with my dad about it. At first, he didn't want anything to do with the film, but he continued to come to the conferences.
Right.
And we continued to film him until one day he agreed and signed the release form and then gave us that interview that you see with all the Bibles behind him.
Yes.
And then he became part of the story. And then we were able to really fully form it. But without my dad, the movie would still be great. But this really gave us an opportunity to see what parents go through. And, people who really, he genuinely, when he wrote me that letter, he really believed that my eternal soul was in danger. And he's coming from an authentic place.
Right.
And so our goal was to just show as much of it as possible, all the different sides, the messy parts, the loving parts. Again, to just get to a conversation. We're not trying to tell people what to think. We're not even trying to change your theology, because that's sometimes going to be impossible. But how are we loving one another? How are we doing relationships? So without my dad, it would be a completely different movie. And I'm so grateful that he and I went there.
I actually, I mentioned before we jumped on to the recording that Rocky and I had spoken only a matter of weeks, I feel, after I came out in 2020. And it was just after my mum had stopped talking to me. And I remember telling Rocky that, and Rocky said, look, your mum believes your soul. Like you said exactly what you just said there to me in one of my darkest moments. My mum and I are in a much better place now, but that kept that in perspective for me all throughout this time, that, my mum is acting the way she's acting because of this belief that her son is damned to hell because of this choice he's making. And so I think that's really important for listeners and people who watch the movie to understand, is that, if your parents aren't harming you, like you said, but they're conservative, Bible-believing, evangelical Christians that they've had this belief embedded in them their whole lives probably too. So it's a hard one to break.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I learned my parents went through what they called a mourning process. There's actually language for it within the church, and there are actually counselors that help the parents mourn the loss of their dreams for their child, and it's okay to give them, again, that space and that grace.
And the grace.
Now, my parents still aren't there, and it hurts. It's frustrating, but we have a relationship. And so I would rather have that than what if. And hopefully, as we say in the film, the only way to even really be an influence is to be in relationship. So there's still hope. There's always hope.
Well, it's one thing to have that, relationship with your parents. It's another thing to have it documented and shared with the world.
Yeah.
Like, tell us about what it was, because I mean that, and for those that when you do watch the doc or the movie, you'll see that very first moment where you're talking about the letter that your dad writes to you, and how he's using scripture to tell you that what you have chosen is wrong. How does that feel to share that with the world so bravely?
It's a little mixed. Overall, though, it's been really rewarding because I've seen the impact that it's made, not only for the church, which we discussed earlier in the episode, but for a queer person or LGBTQ person. And I use the queer umbrella. I'm Gen X, and some people around different parts of the world use it. Some people hate that term. I'm using it as an umbrella term for LGBTQ.
Thank you. Yeah.
I lost my train of thought there, though. Sorry about that.
But putting this out, this personal part
Putting it
of
out in
you
the
out
world,
there to the
yeah.
world, yeah. And you get a mixed response, I'm assuming, but yeah.
Right. And so from an LGBTQ person, that's what I was saying. Thank you. To hear them feel that release of shame, that release of even fear from this fear-based, hell-based religion that we've been taught, some of the reactions are, wow, I never even considered that being gay wasn't a sin. And you can see it in their face, you know, and even just like you said, Aaron, meeting you via Zoom many years ago, and all of the DMs that we get, besides the negative DMs,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we really get a lot of really positive DMs, and people are really encouraged by this information. And so, um, uh, yeah, I'll tell you what, too, having the nickname Rocky helps, because then I can separate myself from my life as
Right.
Sharon,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then my life online as Rocky, you know, where it's some weird psychological thing that
Love
works.
it.
And I'll tell you why they call me Rocky, because this is a funny story about my dad. So we are South Philly Italiano, which is Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it's a very big immigration of Southern Italians, and we are those immigrants. And he is one of many, a line of men. And he always wanted a boy, and he was going to call him Rocky. And if you know anything about Philadelphia, that's where Rocky
Yes.
Balboa, the movie, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
So
Sylvester
that's how
Stallone.
macho the Italian blood runs in my family. And I'm the closest to a boy he ever got. He has 4 daughters.
Oh,
And I'm the
wow.
only lesbian. Yeah, so it was kind of like a joke, but, you know, I'm the closest you'll ever get to a boy, so that's where Rocky comes from.
Love it. So not just your
But,
stage name, like this is connected to your
part of the
family again.
story.
Love it.
And how has the reception to the movie been with your family and the siblings and even your dad after it post coming out? Because we haven't seen that side of the movie, obviously.
Yeah. So my dad and I watched the film with my parents, and I watched it with then my oldest sister and her husband. And the overall reaction was positive. So that was a win. There were a couple nervous moments that I just wanted to make sure that I felt we had portrayed him fairly, and then he felt the same. So he was very happy with the presentation. So that's a win. Overall, I would say the entire family kind of agrees. I might have one sister that's a little, but then I have another sister who, you know, they're all like our parents. They were raised, you know, the same way, and they're really still very conservative. And so this information is hard sometimes. But one sister surprised me, and she said that she was really pleasantly pleased with the way the movie, she just didn't expect it to be that, which is great, because that's exactly what I wanted to make, a film that you don't expect, because we're not making a propaganda film that's telling you what to think and how mad we are at the church, and we need our lives, you know, fixed right now. We demand it. Like, no, you know, we want to make a conversational, relational piece that can actually create real change and conversation in our world. So I would say it was a win with my entire family. And yeah.
Well, and a win with
I'm-
audiences right around the world. Like the way that you have told the story through this beautiful storytelling aspect that comes through it, right from the very beginning. It's so beautiful. But can we talk about your then working relationship, the partnership that you then have with Kathy and with Ed, and how important it was for them to come in and to be part of this. Tell us about that relationship, how that started and how that worked out.
Yeah, that's a great story. So at first it didn't work out very well. They gave me permission to film the first day where my dad challenged Kathy, and I filmed all that. And then I was like, well, I have to make this documentary. And I asked Kathy if I could do it, and she said no. And I was like, oh. Now, meanwhile, this was November 2018. And David, who we see in the film, was coming out for the first time in his 80s at the Queer Christian Fellowship Conference in January 2019. So I didn't have a lot of time to get this together.
Right.
Meanwhile, I have no crew, no money, no gear. I started buying cameras, trying to figure out how to do it myself. I'm an art department production manager, you know, like I don't know how to work camera gear. So I'm doing all this on the side. Then I try to win over Ed. I find out he just wants a haircut. So I'm like, get a haircut. Now he's in Long Beach at the time I'm in LA. in California. So I
Right.
go to his house, December 22nd, 2018. I'm telling you, I know all the dates.
That's
And I
amazing.
convince him that I'm the person. He convinces Kathy. The rest is history. I go to the conference in 2019. David, you see that scene in the movie. He comes out for the first time as a gay man.
Oh,
And from there, you know, Kathy and Ed have, over the years, that was, again, January 2019, have developed such a strong bond and working relationship, from not only making the movie to where our editor, who was fantastic, who, as Ben said, made this amazing movie, Jill Woodward, big shout out to her for the storytelling and being able to put the vision together. I was sending footage of our scenes to Kathy and Ed and getting their permission. And Jill, our editor, was like, "What are you doing? That's like suicide for a documentary filmmaker, because the
Yes.
last thing you do is send, you know, footage to people
right.
because they're not going to like the way they look. They're not going to like this." And
Yes.
right. So I really, from the start, wanted to make something that felt collaborative, that felt everyone was comfortable with what they're saying. I wanted to make sure that I heard and understood everything that they were saying, right? I really wanted to make the most accurate, authentic piece that we could, coming from our, you know, and sometimes when you speak quickly, like I just lost my train of thought, people, you know, might accidentally get a date wrong or something, especially in a conference
Yeah.
setting.
Right.
So triple checking ourselves. And from there, you know, it just developed into this really strong bond. We trust each other. We've had, you know, ups and downs, but we're always solid through. And now that it's 2026 and we're going to this trip to Asia together, Kathy Baldock has finished her book. If you see in the movie, she mentions her book. It's called Forging a Sacred Weapon: How a 1946 Mistranslation Shifted Culture. It's fabulous. It's
Yes.
very thick. It's like a 31-hour audio book, which she also has
Whoa.
audio as well. Yes,
Okay.
I saw Ben's eyes.
Yeah.
But it also has a discussion guide, and it's written in a very accessible way, but it's also wildly academic.
Oh,
And
Great.
now the
love.
three of us are going to Asia. Kathy's going to be giving her conference. Ed is going to be by her side. I mean, he's like fanboying still since day one, helping
Yes.
put up the posters, and he's
Yeah.
there making sure everything is good. And then he does his talk, and it's just, they're so cute, and we're such a solid unit. And now that the book is done, I can't wait to see what the next impact is. So I wasn't kidding when I said we're writing Melbourne in and Australia for the next tour,
Yes.
international,
Great.
because, you know, we have the tools.
Yeah.
We have the passion, obviously. As you can tell, I'm moving all over the place. I'm very passionate about this. And Kathy and Ed are equally as wonderful. And we can't wait to meet everyone and help just, again, be a small piece of all of the people who are doing this wonderful work to engage in this thing called life that we all do. And religion plays a part of it. And if you're not paying attention, it's going to hurt us all. And so we encourage everyone to get engaged in it.
Yes.
Tell us what it was like to be in that moment where they're searching through all of the archives, and then finally there's this piece of the puzzle that just gets answered with the mention of the letter. And yeah, what was that like? Was it like a, oh my goodness, we're onto something here moment? Like,
David's letter.
yeah.
Yeah. So Kathy and Ed discovered David's letter in real time in 2017, about a year prior to us meeting. So as
So
I was
that's
saying, they were the ones.
refilmed.
Yep. They filmed it on an iPhone. They had somebody just helping them document, and they were smart enough to just pull out their phone. And I'm so glad they didn't do a vertical. They shot a horizontal.
So
And
that's
so-
not restaged. That's genuine footage.
100%. And you can tell too, because a lot of it's on the screen, because we only had the one camera. He was up
Yes.
and then he was in, and then we put the graphics in. And the audio was so difficult to clean up because they're in a microfilm lab. So you hear, you know, in the original audio.
Yes.
So it's just so amazing. Now, for me as a filmmaker, after then developing our early on relationship of that year and getting that footage from Ed downloaded on a Google Drive from Yale University, I cried. I was like, this is cinema gold. Like, we're in the heart of Yale University. This is the heart of the movie. this is it. Like, they found it. They had been searching through 90,000 documents to try to find any kind of clue on why the translation committee made this decision. And they see the word homosexual. And these letters are amazing. Now, they're all going to be released in Kathy's upcoming book that will be out in May 2026. It's in indexing right now. It's going to print. It'll be out. And so it's fascinating. So yeah, we all had that kind of moment. And I hope everyone has that moment when you watch the film. It's an incredible piece of history.
I did have that
really
moment.
proud to be part of
It was just like, wow, I can't believe they got this on camera, like this moment. That's why I thought it might have been staged.
Well,
like,
I think because you were not bought into, but you identified and you're feeling their disappointment in the first couple of days, being like, oh gosh, like we've been searching, this is a needle in a haystack. Are we ever going to find it? Like you can feel the discouragement of like, are we wasting our time here because we only have such a short amount of time? And then to find it and you just feel the elation and the joy with them. You're like, yes, this is the missing piece. And two, I think I was like, this is going to lead to, so for me, I was like, this is going to open, the floodgates, so to speak. Like this is going to, this would just be the start. And we're going to find more and more and more. And then to find the person, like,
totally
incredible.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, this is how much it wasn't staged. We were looking to then go back to Yale with Kathy and Ed, do some professional work on our 4K cameras and not necessarily stage some things, but the exteriors and different stuff.
B-roll.
And we ended up just getting B-roll footage that we were able to use because we were not allowed to go to Yale to film. Basically, we contacted Yale and we told them who we are and what we were doing. And then they're like, oh, wait, you have what footage? And I was like, and my heart sank. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I might not be able to use this now. Did I just open up a can of worms? Literally, can you imagine? And I'm just trying to be like honest and we're trying to just do some more. And isn't this cool, Yale University? This is what we have, And so I was panicking.
Oh, you would have been.
Like, we didn't really, it never went anywhere. It was really just like, it was just really a lot of legal stuff to be able to go and film on the campus. It never really went anywhere. They didn't really say anything about our footage, but I still kind of had that panic in the back. Then we ended up getting UCLA as our fair use legal work to do all of our clearance for fair use. So I told them this story and I showed them the footage and they love it. They're like, there's no case here. Yale can't do anything. And I guess there's some like school rivalry between.
Yes, I can imagine there would be. Yeah.
Academics in general. So the lawyers at UCLA were just getting a kick out of it. And they were like, ha, 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 you can use all this footage. It's all fair use. Ha, ha, ha. And I'm like,
that is so funny.
That's so amazing. Hey, let's talk about the find and what they actually found. So they found evidence of correspondence between David and the
RSV Translation Committee, the 22 men.
The 22 men that sat in this committee that made the decision in 1946 to include the word homosexuality into the Bible. So what was it about that letter that was, I guess, the key part of it all?
Yeah. So yes, there were 22 men who were on this translation committee. Now, besides the letter that they found that was talking about homosexual, for some of the backstory too, some of the letters they found in the previous days painted a picture of who this translation committee was.
Right.
And what they saw was a group of men who actually were working to put together the best translation that they could with the information that they had available to them, and were really working diligently to provide a useful tool in modern English that was useful and correct. To that end, they
Hebrew
also,
and Greek and Aramaic languages
correct.
into English. Yeah.
Well, so really what it was, yes, exactly. They were looking at all of the older languages, and then they were working from the King James Version to modernize that into modern English. So yes, they were looking at a lot of different languages within that. Some of the other letters that they found in there were showing how these men were actually working toward justice within their communities, making sure that things like poll taxes weren't in place for people to not be able to vote because they then had to pay a tax in order to vote. And there were letters that they answered to help do things like that within the community. So they really found a heart for just good-hearted people doing this work.
Good intention.
So the letter Pardon?
Good intentions, sorry. Coming from a good place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good intentions. So the letter they found from David, which they didn't know he was a 21-year-old seminary student at the time. They just assumed that maybe he was a gay man, or, he was in psychology or some sort of discipline, because he was so ahead of his time. But the letter was a 3-page letter with an addendum that cited all of the research that challenged the translation, saying, you put the word homosexual in the Bible and I don't understand why. Here's what it has been throughout time. Here's what I think it should be. Please respond to my letter. I mean, it was just brilliant, right?
At 21 years old.
21 years old.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And then in there as well, he said something really interesting about how this mistranslation, I'm now paraphrasing, everything will be in the book, but how this mistranslation, if used incorrectly, will have a devastating effect for the community, for people, and people will cause this harm, not just lay people, but people within the church. And he called this mistranslation a sacred weapon, basically. And so that's all in Kathy's book, and it's in the movie as well, the actual extraction of that portion of the letter. But it was brilliant. He was brilliant. And within, I think it was 3 weeks, they found the correspondence, the reply from Dr. Weigel saying, we see your point. Would it be more malleable for us to use this expression? And David wrote back at humble, thank you very much, and showed his cards a little bit, like kind of admitted some of his, I'm just a student kind of thing.
Yes.
Which was another clue, which is how they were able to find him. But he said, you're still not getting it. This is not an act.
Yeah.
That is consensual. This is an act that has a victim on the other side. This is a vice, which is what he called it at the time, a vice, which is during that time, we know homosexual vices were mostly pedophiles, rapists, people who abused, again, as we see in the verses, abused their power over people. And they said that they would look at it when they were able to change it, and they changed it, which is just amazing history. Now
they couldn't change it contractually, could they? For I think it was something like 10 years. And so in the space of that time, we have translations or versions of the Bible like the NIV, ESV, things like that have come and they've copied. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically Kathy found in a book there was a contract that they were not allowed to make any translation updates for 10 years. During that 10 years were the 60s. And what happened during that time period is the RSV was deemed a communist Bible. It was deemed a progressive Bible. And that's pretty much why they put it in the communist section. There in the United States Navy literally said this is the Bible to avoid. And it just became propagated. There was one person Kathy talks about in her previous book of how it just became widespread propaganda, and it was not the Bible to read. And there's a whole long story behind that. But so then there were 3 other English translation committees in America that were working to make their correct version of the Bible. Now, why would somebody want to make a version of the Bible? We have 450 English versions of the Bible. We don't need that many. There's a lot of control and power in it. Now, the reason the RSV was deemed progressive is because they did 2 things the conservatives hated. Number 1, they took the divinity of Christ away in their minds, because when Christ was on the cross, the Satirian soldier looked up and said, surely this must be a son of a God instead of the son of the God, which is not giving the authority to Christ. And so they were really pissed about that. And then the next thing they did is took the virginity of Mary away, because they called her a young woman, which is more original to the Greek. All of this is actually academically correct, but it's not useful to the conservative camps. And so they needed Mary to be a virgin and not a young woman in the Bible. And those are just 2 examples to kind of get your mindset on the power behind the words that we use and why it's so important to know who's putting together your translations and why. So these 3 other committees work on it. They all had the RSV as their root text. Kathy and Ed went to all of the archive camps, committees, whatever they're called, the archives, libraries. They went to the archives of these other translation committees and saw the RSV was used. And then they put homosexual now in 6 different verses where it doesn't belong. And as we see in the movie, the AIDS epidemic hits in the 80s when we've got billions of Bibles saying homosexuals are the problem. They're the ones to blame. And it was a big mess to clean up.
So I just picked it up and that just around the same time, and then it just went.
And that
everywhere.
prophetic word written in that letter of this now being used as a sacred weapon became true.
Absolutely true.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Almost prophetic in a way. But we're working to fix that. You know, people will sometimes laugh at our concept. Well, homosexuals always been around. And of course, the Bible condemns homosexuality. It always has. And it's like, has it? And what is it really condemning? And even if, like in Leviticus, man shall not lay with man as he does with a woman, you know, they're really only condemning one type of actual penetration, you know, kind of sex. We can get down into, you know, all of those little things.
Do you eat pork and do you eat wear a cotton and polyester shirt blend? Come on.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Can I just pick up on that question though that you asked? You were like, but has it? And I think that's such an important theme that comes through in the movie. Like we go right back to the beginning with Kathy when she has that beautiful experience with her friend Nedo and said, you know, is it Nedo? And says, you know, I'm Native American. I'm a person of color, I'm Native American, and I'm a lesbian. Not even God loves me. And Kathy went home and said, is that true, God? I mean, broke me. But that question is so important because that really is what started to like set things in motion for Kathy, right? That really she started then asking more questions. So I guess my point is like the importance of questioning all of this is one of the important things from this movie.
Yeah, but what we see is, and yes, you're 100% right, and we see an amplification of LGBTQ people being misused through the Bible and through the church. Through the 80s and the 90s specifically, and the growth of that and the growth of conversion therapy. So we do definitely think this is a direct result. And another big issue is in 1973, I think it was, when the American Psychiatric Association declassified homosexuals as being mentally ill. We were then now all of a sudden deemed well in society. That was not going to go over well for the church. And so for many, many years, the church would take homosexuals to a medical practitioner or a psychiatrist or something like that to get them fixed. Now, all of a sudden, it's not a medical issue, it's a moral issue. You can see the church flip on it. And you can see for the first time in history, people being sent to counselors, pastoral counselors to be healed, fixed, delivered, the demon executions, all of the things, and are just amplified. That's our argument. That's what we're trying to get across.
Right.
Yeah. And for someone like me who lived their life for 32 years believing that who I was at the core of my identity was a sin, and believing that wholeheartedly, that I needed to deal with the thorn in my side that was my sexuality, or carry my cross like Jesus did, and push that away and somehow find a way to submit myself to God and marry a woman because that will heal me. All of the stuff that I did, it was the ideas that Kathy has been able to share in all of her writings, and now what the movie has done so well is help a boy like me who has, at the core of who he is, believes the mistranslations and the misinterpretations. It was able to help me pick and finally ask the right questions with reason. And if it wasn't for Kathy's work in this 1946, that was the last piece of the puzzle for me that in 2020 was, or 2019, the end of 2019 was okay, I don't believe that this is a sin anymore. And so that was the last piece of the puzzle for me. And so the movie the reason I messaged you so many times saying, when can I watch it in Australia, was because I just wanted to see it finally. Like all those years, the couple of years of study was just like now on screen, and it made so much sense. And I can't wait for people just like me who it feels like it's not enough just to change and come out. You have to know and go through like the proper study of the word and being able to find, well, what does the Bible actually say about this? Because that's what it took to unplug it for me. It was never going to be I'm going to come out tomorrow. I was never going to be okay with that. It had to be, what does the Bible actually say?
Yeah.
And so thank you for doing it justice, because it honestly, it's an incredible piece of work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Tell us about your, do you still have any involvement with the Reformation Project? Is that still, it's still what's your involvement there? How's that coming through in your work with this movie?
Sure. So we're part of continuing to show up in spaces where there are queer and ally Christians in communion together, and we get to meet other people. So I was at the Reformation Project last October 2025. This year, they now work with an organization called Centerpiece in the United States, which is based in Dallas, Texas. And they now do every other year, they share conference space together so that they combine their audiences. And it's very difficult, as you can imagine, to do a conference like that, an annual. So they're now more biannual. So this year it'll be with Centerpiece in Dallas, Texas. You can get information if anybody wanted to, if you were brave enough to travel to the US right now. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud and go to Texas? But I do encourage you to go check out these conferences. But the good news is there are conferences all over the world. Like I said, we're doing one now in Asia with this group of Asians who have been influenced by the Reformation Project. And then, of course, there's the Queer Christian Fellowship Conference, and there are many other ones in the United States.
The Carefully Made Conference where we
exactly. We can start our own first launch. This is the second one now in Asia. The first was in Bangkok. Now we're going to be in Taiwan. And there are going to be pastors and allies and Christians and gay people from all over Asia. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I keep thinking about those kids that they're gonna do what you and Ed both did. Type in
Google.
or probably ask AI now. What is like gay Christian, to put those two words together into a search function, and then to find resources like this is just incredible. And because we often talk about these are the things that we're exploring, discovering, loving, and embracing now that we really wish that we had.
For sure.
When we were figuring things out. So.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
You said before you didn't think that your family story was going to be in the movie when you set out, and so there's all this stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor. Is there plans to share these stories, bring them out? Is there stuff that isn't in the movie that you're like, oh, I'd love to, like it just couldn't fit, I'd love for the world to see this?
I have so many plans, but I need an editor, we need financing, I need a clone. If anybody knows how to clone me, that would be great. I could get so much more work done. Yeah, we have so much footage, even from Q&As that we've done. Our trip to Asia in 2024 is still sitting on a hard drive. And, I do most of the day-to-day and I can barely keep up. And I also have grand ideas. And like I said, doing the next grant proposal, where do you think that comes from? It takes so much work and so, or a lot of money to get something like that produced and made, which I don't, what I mean? Like yes. And because I've already put it out, we are going to get an editor this year full time. I know it because we're going to get the funding for it. But besides that, I use the footage to share how, like, for example, when we did our road trip around America, that one did get out. And right now we have our UK podcast. So I'm trying to amplify as many voices as I can. And then we are working to do the Around the World podcast. The podcasts are a little bit easier for me to get some stuff out quicker, besides the backlog stuff that I need help with, because then we're able to show more faces from around the world, hear our stories, to be able to echo back. So it is a real big goal and desire of me, and now my partner here in the United Kingdom, my business partner, Josie Perez, who does the podcast with me here, where we've just recorded our 10th episode, so we're really new at this. But that's going to really help to continue to get that message out, give us videos to post on social media so people hear about the film, and all the other things. We do have one person I want to give a shout out to, our outreach manager, Danielle. She's in New Jersey, and now actually she just moved to New York. She's a pastor, Danielle McCleary, and she works for us part-time. She's a paid part-time employee, our only employee. And without her, I wouldn't be able to keep up as hard as it is to keep up. So let's put that in the prayer world, everyone, Aaron and Ben, to get that footage out, because I'd love to share some of the fun things that we've done and more stories.
We'll be continuing to amplify your voice and your story as much as that we can from this side of the world. It's such an important message and story, and you've told it so well. So thank you for the countless man hours that you've put into this, but also the courage that you've lent into to be able to tell your personal side of the story as well, and then to share it with us today.
Yeah. So if people want to watch the movie, engage with you guys, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, if you go to 1946themovie.com, you'll find all of the information. There's a page that says watch the movie, and you can see there's lots of platforms. The one you mentioned earlier, Aaron, that's $6.99, that is on Eventive, which is an independent platform that is available all over the world. So no matter where you are, eventive.org, that link, you're going to find it, and that one also has all of our language accessibility. So no matter what, that's the link that you're going to find the movie. We did get released on Apple TV and YouTube recently, which gives us more accessibility, so it should be in Australia on those two platforms. It's going to be a cheaper rental, which is great. Listen, for less than a cup of coffee, you get to support the work and share the movie. So I encourage you to look for them there. Again, if you can't find it, just go to Eventive. But everything's on the website, including how to host a watch party. If you want to host a party at your church and you have 100 people in the room, it's kind of like an honor system donation for 100 people, and it just, again, helps us keep this work going. So we really appreciate those larger screenings, and those donations are incredible. And then also on our website, we're working to get more resources out. We do have a resource page that provides again, I mentioned there's some amazing people who are doing this work. So look them up, read those books, listen to those podcasts, etc. We're going to have to put your podcast on here now. And exactly. And then we also have a discussion guide in there. So if you're wrestling with this information, it kind of just gives you some questions to ask. We'll be linking Kathy's book soon, which you don't want to miss. So stay tuned. One night, maybe in the middle of the night, I'll put it up when I have time.
I love it. Well, I'm excited to hopefully see you in Australia in the near future. But I think we will host a watch party
100%.
and we will bring 100 people together. So if you would like to watch the watch party with us,
come watch with us.
Comment, send us a DM. We're going to organise a date in the next little while as part of Quickly Made in a cinema. Committing to it here. We'll figure that out. Thank you so much, Rocky, for joining us. It's been so good.
Thank you.